Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Rioch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the Business Connection, a leading Brazil business podcast talking about business in the world. I'm Tom Rioch, an American from Pittsburgh, living in Brazil, known for business networking and talking from my podcast studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today's guest, Daniel Bland, who has been a guest several times before, is now talking with us from his office in São Paulo, Brazil. Daniel Bland is also an American living here, an independent analyst and writer providing in-depth, up-to-date business news and insight, as well as corporate communication services in the Americas. A facilitator for international business collaborations and media communications for some of the largest companies in the world. He is editor, Americas of Global Fleet, the executive network. So with that, Daniel, welcome again to Talk to Brazil Business Connection.
Hi, Tom. Good to hear from you again.
It's always good talking to you, Daniel, and I follow you close, as you know, a number of your posts on LinkedIn. But recently I saw your post about the Fleet LATAM Conference 2021, which is coming up this week. And they're showing that the Fleet LATAM Conference gives international and regional fleet and mobility managers the solutions to stimulate their business and opportunity to learn from best practices in Latin America fleets. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so like you said, it kind of brings together the fleet professionals within the region, bringing together the buyers, I guess, of cars and the suppliers of cars. And it's happening on Thursday. Yeah, it's on Thursday, the 22nd of April. And it's virtual. So like we all know, we produce a lot of events in different cities around the world, and now it's all gone virtual. It's interesting. It's different. On the plus side, we get maybe at least triple the amount of people coming to the events. However, we can't shake hands and have a drink and hug people, but that should return soon. And also, the event is it's free. It starts at about 9 o'clock in the morning, but this is Mexico time. So right. I believe in Brazil, if most of our viewers are from Brazil, would be 11 o'clock. But come in early, maybe like around 8:30, do check in. There's a little bit of networking. You can chat with people there, and then it's going to go on all day. Yeah.
Well, one of the things, and we've seen that I hear from Brazil. You're talking about the Americas, which you know well. More things are becoming regional. We've always talked about the focus here too, Brazil, but each of the different countries. But regional aspects and fleet specifically, what I've seen, in some aspects you have a concentration of the decision making for a whole region when you're talking about large corporations. Isn't that the fact?
Yeah. So what we work on, it's becoming more homogenized, more and more regional, like you said, and we kind of, after regional is global. So it's not for every company, depending on how your setup is, but within the region of Latin America, most of the companies, are out of Brazil. Mm-hmm. The difficulty is you just have to deal with it. You get Portuguese where the rest of the region is in English. Yeah. But worldwide, the headquarters are usually in the United States or Europe. Those are in Europe. You got in France, Germany, Italy. But we work more with trying to work with regionalized, like you said, management within Latin America. And a lot of it's out of Brazil and maybe also out of Mexico.
But I saw in one of your sessions, I think the first session is a search for fleet efficiencies and cost optimization. I think that's pretty generic for the whole world. Everybody's looking for efficiencies and certainly cost optimization.
Yeah, the name of this event is focusing on global trends impacting fleet management optimization in Latin America. And there are 3 sessions. So the first session, like you said, it's called Search for Fleet Efficiencies and Cost Optimization. And the companies have always been looking for this, but seems to be a little bit more so since the pandemic. They need to optimize their fleet usage. And within these sessions, we're going to talk about TCO control, TCO meaning total cost of ownership, and establishing the right KPIs and stuff like that. And also in this session, we're going to talk about some LCVs. LCVs are light commercial vehicles. So I work a lot with corporate vehicles. And so companies have LCVs. And that seems to be quite active nowadays because of the pandemic with delivery vans and trucks. There's a lot of delivery going on.
Well, there's only delivery going on. That seems to be the thing, huh?
Yeah. There's pretty much only delivery. I don't work with a lot with motorcycles, but every minute there's like a motorcycle Wrap, what are their companies? Rappi, iFood, Uber Eats, all these companies and guys with motorcycles and bicycles passing by my house.
Yeah, because what we've seen, obviously, and I'm sure that's regional, a growth in e-commerce across the board, and that leads to exactly the delivery. If you're not going to a store as a consumer, you're waiting at home for somebody to bring it to you. And back to the fleets, if you're maintenance services, right? That's all fleet here in where I live here in Campinas. What you do see quite a bit of are the fleets of the companies doing the maintenance. We're talking about Wi-Fi, telephone, gas installations, water. All of these activities are going. There's construction going on, and you see the fleets. That's where you see fleets.
Yeah, in terms of what I work with, the corporate fleet seems to be less impacted by the pandemic when you compare it to the normal person that drives a car. Yeah, and there are other two. Can I talk about two other sessions here?
Sure.
So the second session, what is it called here? I'm just checking my notes here. Smart reviewing the selection criteria for your fleet. Okay. So this is about the type of vehicle that you're going to select. So, nowadays we have a combustion engine vehicle. What everybody's talking about now is the transition to electric vehicles, hybrids. If you got a crossover between electric and also a combustion engine. And then in Brazil, we have a lot of ethanol. So we're going to talk more about the selection of your fleet and I guess also sustainability. So within corporations, they kind of look at this idea of, we got to be more sustainable nowadays.
No, and I could see that. And talking about Brazil specifically, I think we may have right now the most diverse type of fleet from a fueling aspect. And I think on previous interviews when you were here, we started talking really about the hybrids and everything. But today we can see a little bit of everything right now. So I think Brazil's become a hotbed of a test ground for everything.
Yeah, I think we have the first tribrid, I guess you can call it, which is gasoline and ethanol and electric. So most of them don't accept ethanol, but because ethanol is so big in Brazil, we had the Toyota Corolla, and then we had that, I guess, a new crossover. So they accept three types of power. They have three types of energy that they can use. And then, like I said, sustainability. Sustainability seems to be a little bit less of an issue in Brazil than like if you compare it to like Europe. But this trend is coming to the region. So companies are trying to be more cleaner.
I've spoken about that here on other interviews, really talking about the sustainability where you have, and specifically as you mentioned in Europe, I don't want to say all of, but many of the investments from corporations and companies, investing groups, funds, are directed based on sustainability. We've recently seen Embraer launched their E2 jet. And we've seen that's been highly successful in Europe because of the sustainability aspect, low noise and low fuel consumption. And when you talk about the carbon footprint, those are in the news every day in Europe, it seems.
Yeah, I saw your post about aircraft, so which is cool. I like that too because I worked with aviation as well in the past, and so I like that Embraer post that you had there.
But I think that's coming here to Brazil. I think more and more as companies look for financing, look for investment, banks are starting to include that in their criteria. I think the sustainability through the region will be more important.
Yeah, sustainability, and then also. Another thing we're going to talk about is technology, I guess. So the last session of of the event there is going to talk about data. So people say like the data is the new oil, I guess. Now it's data. All the oil is going to be kept in Saudi Arabia. Now it's, I don't know where it's in the cloud. That will be the new Saudi Arabia, I guess. So yeah, the last one will be talking about data. We're talking about the trends and telematics and video telematics and all this kind of stuff. That's, I don't know, for me, it's interesting.
No, I think it's going to be. And I agree with you when you're talking about data. We're in some instances talking about driverless automobiles or vehicles, be it cars, trucks, whatever. And from what I've heard from other people that I've interviewed in terms of machine learning, it's really the data. It's the re-input of information. I think fleets have access, certainly, to more data than most other people, most other companies have.
Yeah, I think it kind of starts with aviation. A lot of technology starts with aviation, and then it goes down to automobiles and a lot of the fleets. In terms of corporate fleets, I guess they use it maybe more than like the standard person driving a car. But it's this idea of connectivity is starting to spread, and it will become more apparent as the months and years come. Yeah.
And I think too, as the 5G expands throughout Latin America, through the Americas, all of that data sharing becomes more important because it becomes easier.
Yeah, it seems to be sharing more. It seems to be more since the pandemic. I think it also was kind of like pushed it as well. So you said you were telling me that you work from home. I've worked from home even before this started.
Right.
So I had a couple steps ahead of the game, I guess. And so this has fueled the need for this type of thing, type of connectivity and technology. Yeah, I don't know how long it will last. I think some of it will stay with us,
right?
But eventually it will slowly start to get, I guess, back to normality. What do you think?
I'm not sure what normal is anymore. And from the cross section of people I've interviewed, I really get multiple answers. Let's say from the retail level, who really have, were structured and dependent on people coming into a store, coming into an establishment. For them, it's been, I don't want to say disastrous, because too, the changeover to become remote or to e-commerce and to depend on deliveries we mentioned is a whole new exercise. And most people who were, focused on an in-store with people inside, to make that change, and the technology that you need to that is mind-boggling for many people. So unfortunately, we've seen a lot of companies really fall by the wayside. And so the question comes, will these companies come back? Or if they do come back, how they'll come back? And the consumer, how's the consumer gonna work? How do you feel? Because from my own personal standpoint, I have very little interest in going into a store today. Because of all of the risks involved. So I'm not really sure when this return to normal is going to be.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in the same boat, like you said. People and companies, they need to know how to adapt. One thing that Jeff Bezos from Amazon has learned, he's capitalizing on this, but in Brazil, usually Brazilians are quite resilient and creative, and hopefully they'll figure out some ways to do this, and also the rest of the region and the rest of the world, I hope. I think we've learned, we're learning how to be more, I guess, efficient in terms of our operations.
Right.
Like I said, we're using technology and in my world, telematics for these vehicles. And it's something that we have to do. A lot of the fleets, some of them are reducing the number of cars, but they're learning how to make use of them.
Right.
Monitor the fuel usage. We cannot, the idle time in the vehicle fleets. The time where the cars are not being used. We need to reduce that so that you maximize the time that each car is being used. I know that my car. I'm looking at my car right now outside my window, and it's in the garage sitting there, and So it sits there most of the time, but I'm not going to get rid of it because especially now what we're going through, I want to have that car there as a backup just in case I have an emergency.
No, I consider we have the same situation. And back to risk, I think the lowest risk of transportation still is driving your own car. And you too, you like the beaches. I like the beach here in Brazil. So when we can get away, you do want to go somewhere. And you want to go when you're able to go, right? And I think that's going to be. So I don't see a car becoming obsolete here in Brazil, as many people have said. Maybe so in the large cities, people using bicycles, subways. But here where I live in the region, and you know that, when you're out into Brazil, transportation is of essence. And we're talking the fleets. There's no other way to get around. The country's so big. The distances are so great. Everything is so diverse. So I don't see the use of an automobile, trucks, and fleets again. I don't see them shrinking. I see them growing.
Yeah. There was a movement toward less cars, like a couple of years ago, and there might be still that movement because everybody we need to use public transportation. But I think this COVID-19 thing has given us a slap in the face to kind of, and the movement toward public transportation, this transition it has slowed down, and let's see what happens in the years to come. Yeah.
I'm scrolling down through the persons and the guests that you have as speakers, and just to take just some of the companies that are there that will be. We'll have people speaking: Syngenta, Novartis, Danone.
Yes.
These are all companies, and specifically Brazil, are expanding again, reaching out, becoming more national, even than they were before in terms of presence. So that's where I really feel the growth of fleets, where the expansion, because there's so much of Brazil that's undiscovered, really.
Yeah, sure there is. The companies you mentioned, they are like procurement managers or fleet managers from these multinational companies that are based around the world with major headquarters also in Brazil. And they will be speaking along with, of course, the other side, which would be like the providers of vehicles, like leasing companies. And actually at the end of the event, we're going to be having like an executive panel discussion with top executives from within the region, from Element and Arval. So Element is a company from North America, and Arval from France, and they provide vehicles. And ALD Automotive is another company. They will be speaking, as well as LeasePlan. So these are large companies that provide vehicles throughout the world, and they're going to be speaking at the end of the conference. And they are some of the companies that are helping us put the conference together, I guess. I guess I'll mention the Element and Arval, ALD Automotive, and LeasePlan. They're the leasing company. And then also, like I told you, we need to keep an eye on technology. So we got companies like Geotab and Litex and Target Telematics. These are the companies that are helping us put the event together. So, yeah, also a lot of speakers. And
I see a lot of opportunities for networking too, because you have them sprinkled out through. It's calling the networking and village. So, an opportunity, even though it is remote, to have a chance to meet people. Not only to share the ideas, but face to face, even if it is remotely.
Yeah, we are getting around, so far I think about 500 people are registered, maybe. I'll be talking in one session with General Motors and Nissan, and then there's going to be about probably close to 30 speakers, I think. So no, it should be And this is more than our last live event was in Mexico City in 2019, which went well, as there were less people registered. But so it's nice because I get to see I see a lot of people registering.
No, that's the point I see when we're talking about virtual encounters and the virtual experience that you're using, that you will have. It's certainly easier for me to get from to Campinas to participate virtually than it is to go to Mexico.
Yeah. So hopefully you get to come to Mexico. Or what? We have events in Mexico, Portugal. We had ones where we were planning one in Singapore, but got canceled because of the pandemic, and we have in Miami. So I kind of miss traveling that and shaking hands with people and giving people a hug and having drinks and stuff like that. But maybe in 2002, let's see.
Well, as we look out into the world, you see, taking the States, for example, right now, at least domestic air travel has grown. Even in Brazil, domestic air travel is growing. So people are back on the move with all the restrictions that are in place. And even for us, from specifically here in Campinas, you can still get to 100, maybe 110 different locations from Campinas, and people are on the move. So it's not completely stopped.
No, yeah. People are traveling more within their own country, so I guess maybe that's good. Invest within your country and learn more about your own country and travel within. Yeah.
Well, that's a point I've made, and I agree with that because, and you know that many times it was easier to go from here to Miami or Mexico or Portugal than it was to go to Cuiabá. So even for Brazilians, this expansion, the internal expansion, the internal growth, even in the region. We're talking about Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina. This will be, I think, the comeback as we look towards normal. First of all, we'll be within the country, and then second of all, we'll be in the regions before going out globally, because that's going to take a little bit more time, I feel.
Yeah, that'll take more time, and I guess before we sign out here, I talk about some of the future things that I want to, I guess, keep an eye on. One thing I was just thinking, I used to see a lot of scooters here in Sao Paulo, and the bikes and scooter. Well, the bikes are kind of still here, but the scooters have disappeared. But I'm assuming they're going to come back. So, do they have scooters in Campinas?
Yes and no. I think I think the last time we were talking about the bicycles, the sharing, the scooters. There are some. Let's say, placed a restriction on it, the fact that the universities have closed down and many of the schools have closed down. From my point of view, scooters were used here, at least in my area, more by students.
The scooters that I'm talking about are the one that look like skateboards with handlebars, not the little.
No, but those two.
Yeah.
And they were on every corner. You picked them up and used them as you want, but then that stopped because basically with the schools closing down here, I'm next to Unicamp. If you have like 30,000 people who aren't here anymore, the market just went away. But I do see things will be coming back because mobility is the question. We're talking about urban mobility. That's a fact of life. So as trends come back, as either retail opens up, schools come back, people come back to what we're talking normal. The normal is commuting, is transportation, is moving. And that will be back to everything: bicycles, scooters, motorcycles, airplanes, trucks, buses.
You're telling me about this. What are we going to see in the future? Yeah, I think this will come back. This last mile mobility solutions like bike sharing, probably the schools will come back, and I guess less public transportation for now. But I think, give it some time. I think people are going to start using public transportation once again. And like we talked about, keep in mind of the movement toward technology, telematics, video assist in vehicles. Now vehicles have a lot of sensors and stuff like that. Automation, so We're going to have automated vehicles, and of course, looking toward electrification of vehicles. So all this stuff is still going to keep moving, regardless of what's happening right now. We got a little bit of a pause, but I think it's gonna move forward.
But I think the driving point is going to be exactly that: technology. And we're talking about technology. We're talking about scooters or skateboards, whatever. Everything has something on board. Everything has a chip somewhere, and everything's looking for connectivity and traceability. So that is a fact of life. So I think many companies, what I see, they're taking advantage. It's called this lull. From when they do come back, they're going to be technologically, they're going to be more sophisticated than they were before.
One interesting thing we have another event called the Global Fleet Conference. The two sponsors for vehicles, well, are electric vehicles. Mm-hmm. So, and they're probably companies that a lot of people don't know. That the one is Polestar and the other one is Fisker. So it's not some of the other more well-known names. Actually, Polestar is part of Volvo, so Volvo is supporting it along with Polestar. And then, have you heard of Polestar and Fisker?
No, I haven't.
So Polestar is Volvo's electric vehicle brand, and then Fisker is the electric vehicle company that was 15 years ago was competing with Tesla. And so Tesla had a great success trying to get back in the game. So I just thought it was interesting that the ones that are supporting that event, which is more of a global event, is more toward electrification, electrified cars. So
and that's where the future is going to be.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, Daniel, we're coming to the end of our time. I want to thank you, but I do want you to repeat how our listeners can register to this free event, to the Fleet LATAM conference. That is on the site, fleetlatam.com.
Yeah, it's on fleetlatam.com. I guess that's the easy way to find it. And then you can just click on a couple links. You'll see that the event is there. So it'll be on Thursday and starting around 11 o'clock if you're in Brazil. I guess 9 o'clock if you're in Mexico City. And other parts of the world will be at different times, but we'll all be there together regardless of where you're at. Just give me the computer and get in there. Hopefully I can see some people there, and I'll try to say hi to virtually. Yeah.
That'll be good. Okay, Danny. Well, I want to thank you again for being part today, and congratulations and good luck on your conference.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tom. Everybody take care out there.
We will. And for your time and listeners, I want you also to know you can find more about Daniel Bland on LinkedIn. And that Daniel, Daniel, and the last name is Bland. And again, the site for registration is Fleet LATAM. That's FleetLatam.com. FleetLatam.com. And you'll find the Fleet LATAM Conference, April 2021. Thank our audience and our sponsor, Focus Semi Market Intelligence. Focus Semi specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, which is FOCUSMI.com. Visit our website, TalkToBrazil.com, and find our previous shows of Talk to Brazil podcast, which are also available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Tom Rioch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.